They found a 1950 letter, and now, a billionaire empire is collapsing. Welcome back to HEARTMEND. I am Julian, and I just discovered that my family's fortune was stolen from a mother and son who have nothing. What happens when a man loses everything to gain his integrity? You are about to see the shocking move the heirs made when I tried to give it all back. Watch until the very end for a life lesson that is worth more than any bank account. I stand on the glass balcony of my penthouse. The city of New York looks like a collection of cold diamonds below me. I am the man who owns the skyline. I am the man who built an empire from the red dust of poverty. But today, my hands are shaking. In my left hand, I hold a yellowed envelope. It was found behind a loose brick in the basement of my flagship tower. It is dated July 12, 1950. The ink is faded, but the words are like daggers. This letter proves that the land I built my life upon was never mine to take. It reveals a betrayal committed by my grandfather. A theft that funded my education. A lie that became the foundation of my billions. I remember the hunger of my youth. I remember the nights I slept on cold linoleum floors. I worked until my fingernails bled. I sacrificed my sleep and my health to escape the shame of being nothing. Now, the truth threatens to strip it all away. Legal teams are already calling. The press is circling like vultures. If I release this letter, the empire collapses. I will be back in the dirt. I will be the villain of the story I fought so hard to write. Put it in the fire, Julian. I turn around. Sarah is standing in the doorway. She is the woman who stayed when I had only a bicycle and a dream. She worked 3 jobs so I could finish my first prototype. She is the moral compass of my soul. She walks toward me, her eyes filled with a soft, steady light. She does not look at the letter. She looks at me. You think this paper defines your worth, she says quietly. She touches my face with her warm hand. But I did not fall in love with a billionaire. I fell in love with a man who promised to be better than the world that hurt him. I look at the fireplace. The flames are dancing, hungry for the truth. One flick of my wrist and the evidence vanishes. The empire remains safe. The lie continues. If you burn that letter, you burn the man I know, Sarah whispers. The silence in the room is heavy. I feel the weight of my gold watch. It feels like a shackle. The phone on the marble table vibrates. It is my head of security. They have found the living heirs of the family my grandfather robbed. They are waiting for my command to silence the discovery. I look at the letter. I look at the woman who sacrificed her youth for my ambition. I take a deep breath. I do not reach for the fireplace. I reach for the telephone instead. Cancel the security detail, I say, my voice cracking like dry wood. Bring the heirs to my office at dawn. The silence that follows is a physical weight. My lawyers will call this professional suicide. The board of directors will call it madness. But as I hang up the phone, I feel a strange, cold lightness in my chest. Sarah does not move. She does not clap or cheer for my sudden morality. She simply takes my hand and leads me to the old wooden table. It is the only piece of furniture we kept from our first apartment. It is scarred, cheap, and honest. We will lose the house, Sarah, I whisper. We will lose the jets, the towers, and the respect of every man in this city. I look at the 1950 letter resting on the polished mahogany. The ink looks like a fresh wound. We will lose the things we never truly owned, she replies. Her eyes are dark with a wisdom that I ignored for a decade. But you will finally be able to sleep without the lights on. The sun begins to bleed over the horizon. I spend the night calculating the debt. It is not just money, it is 70 years of interest on a stolen dream. To pay it back, I must liquidate my personal shares. I must dismantle the very empire I spent my life building. By 6 in the morning, the lobby downstairs is a hive of chaos. The news has leaked. The stock price is plummeting into a dark abyss. My assistants are crying in the hallway. I walk toward the elevator. I am wearing my cheapest suit. I feel the eyes of the world pressing against the glass. The heirs are waiting in the boardroom. They are a mother and a son who live in a rented room in Queens. They have no idea that they are about to become the owners of my life. I open the heavy oak doors. The woman looks up, her face etched with the fatigue of 1,000 shifts. I hold the 1950 letter out to her. My hand is no longer shaking. The woman reaches for the letter with fingers that are rough from years of labor. She reads the faded ink in silence. Her son stands beside her, his shoulders tense with the suspicion of the poor. I wait for the scream. I wait for the lawsuit that will bury me in a dark cell. Instead, the room stays perfectly still. The woman looks up at me. Her eyes are not filled with greed. They are filled with a strange, haunting recognition. My grandmother spoke of this letter every night until she died, she whispers. She did not want the money. She wanted the acknowledgement that her family was not crazy. The son steps forward, his voice low and dangerous. The acknowledgement does not pay the rent, Mama. I sit across from them. I am the man who has signed billion-dollar mergers. But today, I cannot find the words to justify my own existence. I push a stack of legal documents toward them. This is the deed to the tower, I say. This is the transfer of 40% of my personal holdings. It is yours. It was always yours. The son stares at the numbers. He sees a life of ease and power. The mother looks at me, then she looks at Sarah standing by the door. She sees the grief in my eyes. She sees the man who is finally cutting the anchor of a lie. You are giving us the empire, the son asks, his voice trembling. I am giving you justice, I reply. I am keeping only enough to pay the debts of the transition. The news cameras are pounding on the glass outside. The board of directors is shouting in the hallway. I stand up and walk toward the exit. I leave the keys on the mahogany table. I leave the gold pen that signed my destiny. I walk out of the boardroom as a man with nothing but a clean soul. Sarah is waiting by the elevator. She does not say a word. She simply takes my arm. We walk through the lobby, past the screaming reporters and the flashing lights. We step out onto the sidewalk of Fifth Avenue. The air is cold. The wind is biting. But for the first time in 40 years, I can breathe. We walk 3 blocks to a small, dusty park. I sit on a wooden bench that is peeling with age. The empire is gone. The skyline no longer belongs to me. I look at my hands. They are empty. The park bench is hard against my back. I look at the polished shoes I am still wearing. They belong to a man who no longer exists. Sarah sits beside me, her shoulder pressing against mine. She is watching a young couple sharing a sandwich on a nearby lawn. What now? I ask, my voice barely a whisper in the wind. Now, we begin the work that matters, she says. My phone rings in my pocket. It is a number I do not recognize. I hesitate, then I answer. It is the son from the boardroom. His voice is no longer sharp with anger. It is heavy with a strange, quiet confusion. My mother refuses to sign the final transfer, he says. My heart stops for a beat. Why? I ask. The documents are perfect. The empire is hers. She says she does not want a kingdom built on a thief's shadow, he replies. She says a building is just stone and glass. She wants to see you, Julian. She is waiting in your old office. I stand up, my legs feeling like lead. We walk back to the tower that used to bear my name. The golden letters on the facade are being covered with black plastic. The lobby is silent now, the vultures have moved on to the next tragedy. I ride the elevator up one last time. The mother is sitting in my high-backed leather chair. She looks small against the vast window of the city. She holds a single piece of paper in her hand. It is not the 1950 letter. It is a handwritten list of names. These are the people your grandfather hurt, she says. Not just my family. There were others. I do not want your billions, Julian. I want your hands. I stare at her, confused by the riddle of her grace. I want you to use this money to find every name on this list, she continues. I want you to build them the homes they lost. I want you to be the architect of their restoration. If you do this, I will sign the papers. If you do this, we will be partners in a different kind of empire. I look at Sarah. She is smiling, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. The weight of the world shifts. The billionaire is dead. The builder is finally born. The boardroom is no longer a battlefield of ego. It is a sanctuary of purpose. I take the list from the woman's weathered hands. The names are more than ink, they are legacies waiting to be restored. I look at the son, who finally relaxes his grip on the mahogany chair. He sees that true power is not in the taking, but in the returning. Sarah steps forward and places her hand over mine. This is the foundation we always wanted, she says softly. We spend the next year stripping away the excess of my former life. The penthouses are sold to fund community centers. The private jets are traded for school buses. I spend my days in dusty archives and small living rooms. I meet the grandchildren of the men my grandfather stepped over. I hand them keys to homes that are debt-free and full of light. Each time I sign a deed of restitution, a layer of the old Julian vanishes. The world watched me fall from the Forbes list. They mocked me for losing $1 billion. But they did not see the riches I was accumulating in my heart. I no longer wake up with a knot of anxiety in my chest. I wake up with the calloused hands of a servant. On the final day of the restoration, the woman from the tower visits me. We stand in a garden built on the site of a formerly ruined tenement. She smiles at the children playing near the fountain. My grandmother can finally sleep, she says, squeezing my arm. I realize then that success is not a destination of gold. Success is the courage to stand in the truth, regardless of the cost. I have less money than I had 30 years ago. But I have a partner who looks at me with pure, unburdened pride. I have a name that stands for honor instead of theft. The lesson is simple, yet it took me a lifetime to learn. A man is not measured by what he gathers, but by what he heals. Integrity is the only currency that never devalues. In the end, I did not lose an empire. I